Jesus Christ's image is of a white man. So here we have again more proof of them trying to force the image of a white man on us. But this time things were different because the Roman Empire became strong and they spread. Slavery happened, indoctrination happened, and there it was. You have generational indoctrination to where you start indoctrinating the kids, and then the culture spreads, so on and so forth. And this is what happened. But if you don't go back and look at the history of where this began, you're not going to understand why it's important to look at Jesus critically and then look at Serapis and understand what happened. So this is important because we have to look at all the facts and all the information. This is not hard to do. Who gave us the original book, the original Bible? It's not Moses. We don't have no proof of Moses giving us anything. We don't have the original books. The first writings, manuscripts we have of what we call the Torah, Old Testament, Pentateuch, or what have you, it's coming from the Greeks, and it's written in Greek. Just so happens nobody was speaking Hebrew around this time, but supposedly it was some scattered Hebrews or Jews around that were enslaved or being enslaved by the Greeks. And the Greeks were able to get them to do a translation of the Hebrew law into Greek. So the story goes. And that's how we get the Septuagint, which is in Greek, which then all of a sudden they disappeared because supposedly the Greeks set them free according to the letters of Orestes, but also supposedly they were being captive in Babylon or scattered in so many different stories, none of which we can prove. But, against the proven actions of the Greeks, we can say, they let these people go and worship the way they was worshiping, when it doesn't make sense that they would let these people go, and why they would want to give up all this gold and give up slaves for a translation of a Hebrew law that they're not going to follow. But at the same time, they're forcing Hellenization on the indigenous people. See, it doesn't fit. The only thing that fits is that this stuff, they made it up. Plain and simple. Talked about the Hebrew is Greek book by Joseph Yehuda. We talked about how when you go there, we can see there's no Jewish artifacts, no Hebrew artifacts. We can't find these people. I talked about Hecataeus and talked about Diodorus Siculus and how they're basically telling us, or Diodorus is telling us, these people did not exist. We can't find nothing on them before the 4th century BCE, really before the 3rd century BCE. Everything is all, bullshit. It's all, pseudo. So again, anybody comes to you and say we have this proof or evidence of Jews existing before the 3rd or 4th century BCE, none of it has been proven 100%, as I talked about in the last video. And we have all the evidence on that. And we have not just the Jews in Israel and in the paper and the Haaretz in Israel talking about all these forgeries and fakes out there of these so-called artifacts that supposedly gives validity to the Bible. They're all bullshit. None of it has been proven. What has been proven, what is real and legit, is the statue of Serapis and the fact that he existed long before Jesus and Christianity. And it's proof that they were giving us a God in their image to worship. So by the Greeks, one, being the first to give us a Torah written in Greek, and somehow the language of Hebrew is dead and gone. And then everybody who is claiming to be Jews is using the Septuagint all the way up to St. Jerome, who gave us the Latin Vulgate and Vetus Latina. And he basically, because at this point, by the 500, 400 AD, the manuscripts are gone, supposedly. We got the Syriac Peshitta, and we have the fragments of the Septuagint, which St. Jerome supposedly, using his own knowledge of Hebrew, or what he says is Hebrew, completely, almost completely rewrote the Septuagint when he gave us the Latin Vulgate. So it's a lot of, craziness in that whole thing. But the fact remains that he couldn't have done none of that without a Greek Septuagint. And then we have the Greek New Testament. So everything again points to the Greeks. And then we have this connection with the Greek, who is, they say he's Egyptian, but we know the Greeks made him up. Serapis, which is the Egyptian god Apis the bull, and Osiris, who is also represented by a bull, to give us Serapis. But this is the Greeks who have done this. So again, it's something you got to look at. I don't understand why people have a hard time with just doing a little bit of research and seeing, what Serapis is all about. And it's not a coincidence that he looks like Jesus. So a lot of times we see Jesus and people say, oh, it's Caesar Borgata. But we got to understand, that image has been around for a long time and we can go back far. The point is not so much of, who he is or what have you. It's the fact that we have proof that they were trying to force a white God on us, or they did force a white God on us to worship before Christianity. That's the main point. That's the point of all this. So again, you have to look at this and say to yourself, well, if they try to do this, or if they did this, before Christianity, and then all of a sudden we get this Jesus that looks just like this guy, then who's to say that this is not what's happening with Christianity? And that's exactly what I'm saying. That's what happened. So you have this Jesus Christ, and we know for people who conscious represents the sun. So again, we have this proof in history of them giving us white deities to worship, and us giving that energy to these white deities and propelling these people to be in a position of power that they are in. And it's one of the reasons why they're still in power, because you have billions of people all around the world giving their energy to this white image and making them as if it's everything, black folks mainly. So you can't, for the people who talked about primary sources and having this information on that is out there, but you can't, ask for primary sources on this and then ignore the fact that there's absolutely no primary sources for the Bible. There's absolutely no primary sources for talking snakes and donkeys, or for Samson having superhuman strength because his hair is long, for Jonas, grown ass man surviving 3 days in the fish. Please give me a primary source for any of this stuff. But they ask us for primary sources on stuff that is proven. Anything I put out is not going to be something that is, questioned. It's something that is substance, that has proof. There's validity to everything that I put out. So, Serapis is something you can look into. And as I said, I've seen him in the London Museum. I've seen him in the Cairo Museum. He's in the Metropolitan Museum in New York. You can see the statues, and you can see a lot of them. Most of them, he looks like Jesus. So, it's not hard to figure out what happened and to figure out what was going on. We got deeper into the why in other videos, why it's important. Because again, as I said, it's important for you to understand what is so, special, what is so big about the, instilling or the indoctrination or coming up with mythologies, with stories. You have to really look at this. And again, I say critical thinking kills all this shit. You have to think critically. You have to go back and look at the Egyptians. What did the Egyptians do? They gave us mythology. They gave us stories, right? We have all Egyptian mythologies. We have the story of Osiris and Isis and everything like that, all to tell us about something else, right? So we know that the Greeks wanted to take over Egypt for the gold, supposedly the knowledge, or what have you. What did they do once they conquered? The same thing. They gave us mythologies. They gave us a religion to follow. So it's like, okay, well, why not just, take over everything? They didn't do that. They instilled a religious belief. Same thing. This, as I said, this is the reason for the wars of the Diadochi, because a lot of them did not understand why did we, go through all these years of war. So many people died just for us to come up with Hellenization and the spread of religion. So it's crazy. Same thing with the Romans. Ask yourself that question. As I said, you have the Caesars, you have a Roman Senate, you have a structure and a whole culture that these people were following for a long time. And they conquered so much just to scrap it all when the Greco-Roman era happened, when they conquered Greece and they created Christianity, and then everything is right there. So again, you have them conquering the Greeks, and what did they do? They completely changed everything to give us a religion, to give us mythologies and stories. Only this time they want to say that these mythologies or these stories are actually true and real. But the point is, what is so important about giving us a book and a story with, mythologies and stuff that seem like allegories and stories and so on and so forth, which they are. What is so important about all that? And we got into this in, Greek mythology and meditation and ancient history videos, all those videos we talked about what that is about. I went into this deeply in the agenda about why religion had to be instilled and why the old ways was changed and why everything is, different, why they went out and conquered so much and they had to get rid of the old world. When you look at the establishment of Christianity under the English Empire, under Rome as well, this was them basically going out and getting rid of everything that had to do with the old world. All the old ways, all that old knowledge that was real knowledge, that had real substance to it. They outlawed it. They called it witchcraft or, paganism, or called you a wizard and so on and so forth. Philosophers were basically burnt at the stake. They were hung. They were killed. They were tracked down. Mathematicians, scientists, physicists, all those people who were doing all those real studies were basically considered evil, and they had to flee. And a lot of them had to basically stop doing what they was doing, because anything that had anything to do with the universe or real power and energy was scrapped and basically replaced with biblical religion. And they crammed all the knowledge for themselves, and they held all the knowledge for themselves and talked about it in secret societies and put it to us and basically put it in the Bible, really. But for us to not understand, but for them to understand. So it's a lot of deep stuff, but I wanted to really harp on that point. You got to look at the fact that Serapis existed, long before Christianity, and that he didn't exist until the fall of Kemet. So if this was a real God for them, if they really believed in this God, why didn't they worship him, during the time that they were in power, or, before the fall of Kemet, which tells us what they was doing. They were trying to push him on us. So you got to look at this, and you got to question all these Moses and so-called prophets and so on and so forth that they show us as being white, and question the fact that, they try to push religion on us and been pushing religion on us for thousands of years, using prophets or deities or what have you that's in their image. Talk about this all the time, how all these other, races of people and cultures have gods in their image. And we know all the gods of the ancient world were black, and that changed. So we got into all this. But for the people who asked about Serapis, I wanted to put this out and to get you to critically think about that. He existed long before Jesus. We have proof that this is a white man that tried to force on us, or did force on us, to worship. Got to question Jesus and look at it being a continuation of that, especially when you have the whole Greco-Roman connection and how, it all fits. So I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Make sure you guys take advantage of those sales. They're going to be gone. Again, I have the Stock Market 3 coming out. We have a couple things coming out, but definitely take advantage of these sales. Get on it this weekend. It's going to be gone, especially if you're super lucky to be able to get into the lifetime membership. Get into it now. It's going to be gone. The new site is going to be crazy. The new app is going to be crazy. Definitely take advantage of everything that's out. And see you guys next video.